All right, welcome on back into the SCO Show. Aniello, Piro, Chase, Howell, and we are joined by a very special guest. We talked to Adam Munster Tiger on the program today, but now we've got the number one top dog when it comes to CU fandom, Mr. Brandon McCartney, kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time. And you're legendary for your pregame videos. You're legendary for your overall fanaticism of being a Colorado Buffalo supporter. And I would imagine that, the Rocky Mountain Showdown is always a fun one to get amped up for. We could do that next week. But CU Nebraska, a college football rivalry that has been decades in the making, decades long. And I'm so happy to have you on the show today, my man. How are you feeling today? And how are you feeling about this game? Bring the thunder, buddy.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, first of all.
Come on, B-Man. You're wired, fired, and inspired.
You want me to give you one?
Let's go.
We need it right away.
All right. I am wired, fired, and inspired.
Woo!
Let's go, Buffalo!
There it is. All right, now we can do this.
I'd rather be dead than red.
It is. We're off to a great start. So for those of you that haven't watched the pregame hype videos where you give your predictions, can you kind of go over how that started? I kind of remember you sending me a few messages. I remember the first one you ever put out there because you gave me a couple of what should we call them, pilot videos, and I said, nope, not enough energy. And then all of a sudden, all of the energy came out. So tell us about how those videos started.
So it was during COVID, that whole fun year. My dad was like, we need to get you to do something so you're not bored all day. So I'm like, so then he said, maybe you should do something around the Buffs and like make a minute or 30-second to a minute videos before every game. And so then I did that for the Arizona game in 2020. Nailed the score, by the way, 24-13. I haven't even come close since that game. And then like it was a couple videos in that my brother Nicholas suggested that, hey, Grandpa Mac's famous thing is wired, fired, and inspired. You should implement that to end your videos to give a good wrap up. So then I just took it to my own levels and made it the unique way of just screaming into the camera and hyping the Buffs fans up as much as possible. Yes, Chase, you are right. I do give you credit for bringing the full energy out of BMAC. So you guys can basically credit Chase Howell for creating the monster that BMAC is today.
So during that season, when was it that the players started getting a hold of those videos? Because I remember they started watching them, and then you could hear them yelling in the locker room after wins. Do you remember that?
Wait, that actually happened?
During COVID, yeah. I remember that when they got to the Alamo Bowl. You don't remember that? They started going wired, fired, and inspired in the locker room, and it was hilarious.
I don't remember that, but I just remember Barstool Colorado retweeted the prediction when I nailed the score, the very first one I did, and I just remember again, like, players followed me after that, but I don't really remember when the shoutouts began or the Buffs players being hyped about that. But I do remember last year after we beat after the Nebraska game last year, Trevor Woods saying in the locker room, "Shout out, I'm wired, fired, and inspired" after the win. That was awesome, and I have gotten a couple shout outs on Twitter afterwards after Buffs wins. One player's, I forget who it was, but he said, "I am wired, fired, and inspired. Let's go, baby," or something like that. I've gotten a few of those, and it's. To answer your question, I don't really know when it started. It's just been a thing.
I was going to say, that's what the kids call aura these days.
That's
You
aura.
bring the aura to the Buffs. And look, the Buffs got plenty of aura, right? Coach Prime's bringing it. Shador's bringing it. Yeah, exactly. Let's go. I don't have my watch on right now, but you know what it is. But, let me just ask you this before we kind of dive into Nebraska. Like, obviously you have an extensive history with the Buffs and your background and all that kind of stuff, but like, what even is Colorado football right now, dude? Like, I mean, you got Chase with the Shador hat on. I was up at the games last year. Like, I've made this comparison time and time again whenever people bring this up to me. I was at the Denver Nuggets championship run. I saw them win the finals in the flesh at Ball Arena. When I say that doesn't even compare to last year's Nebraska game with the Big Noon Kickoff, I'm being dead serious. You had Lil Wayne, you had Urban Meyer, College Game Day, Fox Big Noon Kickoff. I mean, for you, from your perspective, what do you just make of this pandemonium that is Colorado football right now?
To me, it's a dream come true. Like, I used to pray for these days when Colorado would get this national attention, and I remember sitting through that 1-11 seasons thinking, like, we're never going to be good again. I'm going to be the only person struggling to find Colorado games on Stream East and all that stuff because they're not nationally televised. But now it feels like a dream come true. That's what Colorado football is now. And I do think we'll be a lot better this year than we were last year, year two. So, yeah, it's been a dream.
So let's talk a little bit about your history with Nebraska. When was the first time you remember learning about the rivalry and being told how bad of a color red really is?
Really, probably since I was 2 years old back in 2002. Red was never really an acceptable color in our household unless it was the Red Wings and Fairview football, and the Chicago Cubs too. But other than that, we hate red. There's not going to be any red in this household on Saturday. We're going to take all the red and put it in the shed out in the back, and that's where we're going to put Nebraska 2 in the shed. But yeah, I sorry, I learned about Nebraska hatred in our family history with that at a really early age, and I've loved it ever since. I've been giving Nebraska fans crap this week, saying I'd rather be dead than red. I've really enjoyed it throughout my life, just crapping on Nebraska fans. And the last 4 games we played have been really fun, especially when Laviska Shenault caught that touchdown in 2008. Was that 2018, Chase?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
That would be the last time they were in Lincoln.
Yeah. So to answer your question, a really young age.
Let me ask you, or go ahead, Chase.
No, you go ahead.
So for context, like I said, we're all in and around the same age, right? And like, I grew up watching college football. Everybody grows up watching college football, but like Coach Prime and the Buffs, like they're getting eyeballs from everybody, but like a lot of the youth is really big on what they're doing up there in Boulder. And it feels like when I moved here, like I understood the Colorado-Nebraska rivalry. I did, but it feels like now that they're playing again on a more regular basis, right, you can kind of renew it a little bit. Maybe for some of the younger college football fans or people that are maybe Coach Prime fans that are becoming Colorado fans, how would you kind of summarize the rivalry that is Colorado-Nebraska and why it is, traditionally considered one of the better rivalries in college football?
Well, it started off Nebraska dominating it. Then over the last 4 or 5, the last 10 games, I'd say, the tides really started to turn to the Buffaloes. We've won 4 straight games, and so how the hatred really started was in 1982 when my grandpa was first hired. He asked the media. He said, "Who is our biggest rival?" And then the media was like, "Well, Coach, we don't really have the biggest rival. We don't really beat anybody on a consistent basis." And yeah, and then he looked to the west and east, and he's like, "Let's make Nebraska our biggest rival." And he tells a story that the media just erupted in laughter because like I said, they did dominate us back before my grandpa started coaching, and that's really how. And then, and then Tom Osborne got a hold of that and was like, "Yeah, we really hate these guys in Colorado, even though they don't even know what we're talking about." Even though we don't know what they're talking about because we dominate this rivalry so much, and then Colorado fans just got a hold of my grandpa saying that that we want to rival Nebraska, and then I don't know when the I'd rather be dead than red started, but I think came from that same first press conference. So so there's that, and then in 1989. In 1989, we beat Nebraska to go to the Orange Bowl. And then you guys can find a legendary picture of my grandpa being carried off the field that year. And trust me, every time I look at that, it gives me great goosebumps because I wish I was alive during those days of my grandpa just dominating college football, dominating Nebraska, even though he only won 2 games against Nebraska, but those 2 wins mean more than anything. I don't even know if that answers your question at all.
No, that was
beautiful.
fantastic.
Yeah, that was perfect. So he's had a few really good quotes about Nebraska. I remember one time he had a press conference. This must have been before the rivalry was renewed, so before 2017, before that home game. He had a press conference, and I was there in attendance, and he brought up the great one that he always says: "I'd rather lose a bet than you'd have to lose a bet to live in Lincoln."
It's Norman, Oklahoma, Lincoln, Nebraska, compared to Boulder, Colorado. You'd have to lose a bet.
There it is. I knew BMAC would have the quote. One of my favorite quotes, and he used it as a recruiting tool. Really, he was able to win a lot of recruiting battles from coming over the highway, showing them the Flathearts, and saying, "You really would pick Lincoln, Nebraska over this?" Was there anything you remember from talking to your grandpa growing up that he used to say about Nebraska?
Well, he did tell me the story of when. He also likes to say, a rainy day in Nebraska. A rainy day is a beautiful day in Nebraska. And then he said that after he told me the story of how Eric Bieniemy fumbled 3 times in the first half of one game. I think it was 1989. And then in the second half, he scored 4 touchdowns, and we won like 26-0. And it's just a bunch of. And then he did tell me the story of when Darian Hagan was being recruited out of California, and then apparently Nebraska was going after him. And then maybe it was Salinesi.
No, this is right. Dude, yeah, I could tell this story. I remember this one. So he went to visit him in Compton, where there is a pretty big gang rivalry there, the Bloods and the Crips. And
yeah. Keep going.
Coach Mack was looking around, and he saw the neighborhood that Darian Hagan was living in, and he said, "There's a lot of blue here." Is that right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So he was able to get Darian Hagan because he said he can't come back home wearing red.
And then he's like and then my grandpa's 30 for 30. They were jokingly saying, Nebraska's the Crips, and we're the and we're the other guys. Yeah, I can't remember the story off the top of my head like Chase can.
That's incredible. All right, BMAC. I need the energy. I need the aura. This is week 2, right? I thought NDSU was a little sweaty. I thought they clamped down nice in the second half. I liked the improvements. I hate to admit it, Nebraska's better than they were last year, in particular at the quarterback position. So my question to you, how to see you win this football game? Give it to me, man.
Well, what I saw, we weren't setting the edge against North Dakota State, and we were we were giving up big plays on second and third down. And I think if we can contain Dylan Raiola in the pocket and just keep him under pressure and not give up those big second down plays, those big third down plays, containing the running game and minimalizing the running game and really most importantly more we need to see a more disciplined team because all those penalties we saw are not going to cut it against Nebraska. Giving up those big plays are not going to cut it. Dropping passes when you're wide open is not going to cut it. Basically, we have to on offense we have to pass to more than Travis and Jimmy Horn. We have to throw to Amarion Miller, Draylon Miller. We have to utilize our offensive running backs this time. Like I think we only had like 67 yards of running the other game against NDSU. We have to utilize all facets of our game to really beat Nebraska this week and not just use Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn. If you know what I'm saying.
Hey man, I don't mind watching as much Travis Hunter as I possibly can, but you're absolutely right. You've got to spread the sugar. You know, we saw Amarion Miller. Was it the Nebraska game last year? He may have popped off. There was a game
USC.
early in the year.
USC game.
Yeah, so there's no question about the talent. I need to see that continuity, but all in all, I am stoked for this game coming up this weekend against Nebraska. Of course, the Colorado Buffaloes. Chase, do you have any closing thoughts for Mr. BMAC before we get out of here?
I'm wired, fired, and inspired.
Let's go.
Let's go, Buffalo!
I am ready to go. Brandon McCartney, the man. Yeah, hey, let's get him up. Let's get him up. Let's go, baby.
Even though I don't have that bling like Shador does.
We'll get that on you, though. We'll need to do a shipment.
Yeah, we got to get you iced out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get a little deal.
I need that hat, Chase. I need that hat.
Mm-hmm.
Easy enough. All right, BMAC, appreciate you big time. You're more than welcome to join the show whenever to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, I still need that. I still need that follow from you on Twitter.
I'll do that.
AP, you're not following him on Twitter?
I'm slacking, bro. I'm gonna follow you on my personal and the MHS. I got you right now. I promise.
I got you. Hey, thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Hey, BMAC, appreciate you big time. Let's see you take down Nebraska, and maybe we could do a little celebration show next week. How about that?
Hopefully.
So, right on. All right, BMAC, Chase Howell, AP Sco Show.